Myself. So we're unmuted now on the live, and you're going to hit welcome everybody to Think Big with Odd Experts. I have Morgan here with me. We're now recording and sharing the screen. Got a couple great new people. Today we are going to talk about reactionary business owners as opposed to proactive business owners. And we have some great stories to share with everybody. If you remember, my purpose in this call each week is to share stories and examples of what I've gone through on my journey as a business owner, an audiology practice owner, an entrepreneur, and a manager of teams. So what we do is we stick with the 4 pillars of our consulting and coaching group, which are mastering your mindset, communicating your culture, specializing in your specific knowledge or science, and monetizing your marketing. So today we're going to have a great discussion across those 4 pillars, and we're ready to get started.
3, 2, 1.
How to build your trust, your authority, and tell your story so that you're the differentiated provider in your community. Everything I'm doing in my practice, plus everything that my clients are doing across the country. I know you made the right decision for your practice. Just like my practice and the clients across the country, these marketing examples you took advantage of are going to help you grow in 2022 and beyond. All right, Morgan, you ready to think big today while you swap that over and get our live stream going? People can see our faces.
There we go.
Little dark today. Fantastic. Thank you for joining. If you are new today, we always have new visitors. If you're new today, chat in below new so that we can know who's a first timer here in the group. And Morgan will be watching that chat feed. We also want to be pretty interactive. So if you have some examples, if you're willing to chat in, if you're willing to even go live and talk with us, that's even better. So go ahead and chat in new. If you're not new, chat in. Here's the question of the day. A time this week, if you were reactionary and what it was about. So if you had a reactionary moment today, a reactionary email, text message, employee quitting, marketing reactionary moment where, things went off the rails, chat that in. I would love to know what is crossing your desk and in a reactionary manner. So Morgan, you've seen me, and we just got back from a clarity breakdown in Scottsdale. And, first thing back, right, I started answering emails this weekend, yesterday night and into today. And of course, I'm seeing emails fly in left and right about things like marketing not working, people who resigned. Speaking of which, right, my DO resigned the night before our marketing boot camp. So just over a week ago, my DO resigned, and it didn't throw me off the rails. It didn't stop me from the proactive plan that I had for my marketing event, my mastermind, my clarity break, and what I was planning on doing moving forward. So we'll tell you about that story a little bit, but chat in your reactionary moments this week. We're Tuesday. If you had one last week, chat it in. Just the last time you had a reactionary moment.
I was going to say, when you were mentioning like the possibility there for things to react on, I think you might have hit a hat trick there between somebody quitting, marketing that needs to be done, ROI that needs to be tracked, employees that need training. Sure. I think you probably had all 3 or 4.
Well, I mean, you look at it, right? And at least in the audiology profession, I know we have real estate agents, we have business owners, we have chiropractors, accountants. We have a lot of different people that watches this in audiology for sure. And I think most customer service or professional service-based businesses, you have like 3 drivers of your business, right? You have marketing and advertising, you have human capital, payroll, employees, team members, right? Those are the 2 big ones that you're always going to see. And so it's pretty easy to be reactionary in those 2 areas if you're an entrepreneur or business owner. What do we have for anybody chatting anything in specifically?
We do have one. We've got one business owner that said this month return rate is killing them. So for me, I would love to know, for you, Kim, what is the reaction? You're home now. You've seen that your return rate is high. How far into this thing are we? I mean, how big is the fire, right? We were joking back in school days, you used to have to, what were they called? The fire drill, you had an earthquake drill, any kind of drills that we had in school, there was a plan of action for what you had to do. You had to stand in the doorway, get underneath the desk, everybody get into one room, whatever it was. So for you, Kim, how far along are we in the month of this bad returns? Today's the 15th. So is that where we're at? And how did you figure out that you were so far behind on returns? How do we find out that there was an issue?
Chat that in. And while she's chatting that in, I think what I look at, and it reminds me, the last big emergency we had was what, 2 or 3 Marches ago now. It all blurs together when COVID came on and hit, right? And the world, the US, the economies, businesses were shutting down left and right. We had never been through that before. Right. And if you remember, we had the COVID action plan, right? And we went back through and we built this, what kind of PPE do we wear? Where do we get masks? Where do we get respirators? But taking that same model, whether it's the COVID, reactionary plan we had, you mentioned fire drills, right? So I remember in school, there was a plan of action. If there were to be a fire, we practiced it, we role played it, we knew exactly what to do. They beat it into us, right? And my parents talked about their Cold War drills, and they would get underneath their desk. In California growing up, we had earthquake drills left and right. So anytime that there's potential for your business or your team to go off the rails, we need to know what the stop gaps are. When do we find out there's a problem? How quickly do we find out there's a problem? And what is our plan if there's a problem? So it's great that, a few of you chatted in and have an issue and can identify the issue. Now, how do we fix it this time? And how do we fix it moving forward? How do we have a plan for if our return rate or our marketing is off of goal after 1 day, 2 days, 2 weeks, a month, a quarter? How do we kick it back into gear? And that is the learning nugget, Kim, I think, is you might not have the exact answer this time, but what I want to do is help you build the system in your practice so that there isn't a next time. And if there is a next time, how do you quickly recover? Because it's about your speed of recovery, not about the issue or the emergency. There's always going to be emergencies. So how do we quickly identify when we're off the rails, and how do we get back on track?
Yeah, I love, and what Kim said is it's been weeks, and she mentioned the specific word, which I love, is trend. So at least in her office, this wasn't like a one-time spike and everybody got frustrated and everybody got upset. The bad side of it is that it has been 5 weeks now. So 5 weeks of bad numbers, and now business owner is starting to panic, right? I think that was the word that she used, is that she's starting to panic a little bit. What Jared's saying is there's no such thing as no returns. Your office has returns. Every business on the face of the earth has returns. We can't avoid those fires that will happen, but what we can do is try to shrink the 5 weeks that it's been down into 2 weeks or 1 week. And ideally, Kim, I think if you're honest with yourself, I think what you would hope you could do, because she is using the EOS software, she's using 90, her team's meeting regularly, is the first week that they had a set of bad returns, to have a good IDS session, meaning identify, discuss, and solve, get down into the root of those returns with the staff, especially the providers that are actually having the returns. What game film is huge. So we've got to look at the game film, the recording of the phone call that was booked, and then the last missing piece there is the provider in the actual room, and hopefully establish in week 1 what happened. That way we don't get week 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So catch it early, treat it early. That's always a great saying from Dr. Darrow on the patient side, but it's the same with the management, the HR, the people, and the marketing issues in your businesses. Catch it early. So 5 weeks is a little bit slow for me. I would have wanted to catch it maybe a little bit earlier. And I think you're right with game film or recordings or voice recordings, is what is going on, right? And I think we have to truly identify not only that the trend is off course or behind, but why is it behind? And it's easy for us as an owner. I do it all the time. I start trying to decide why, right? And I start making up in my head reasons why.
Yeah.
Right. So and so is sick, or this is happening. And that was when I was more of an unhealthy owner. And now, as I've, gotten to a point where I think I'm healthier more often than not, I have to go back to the team and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right. And I often have a team that will tell me what's going on. It's either we're rushed on time, or, the programming software is not working correctly. There was one time, with a major manufacturer, that we caught a technological problem with their hearing aids. Like, we actually were the first one to catch that there was a defective part in the hearing aid.
Yeah, before they had a chance to take it home for 2 weeks and come back and return. And
yeah. So my first part would be to catch it. Once you've caught it, now we have to determine what are the remediation steps this time to hurry and quickly solve it this time, but also moving forward to make sure that we have a plan so that next time we're prepared and we're not reactionary, but we're proactively catching it.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention really quick, because I just dealt with this with another client back in New York City, is again, something we want to talk about tonight is EOS again. It probably sounds like that's a broken record for us, but that you've said a million times now that software is something that has fundamentally changed the way you do business.
Changed my life.
Changed your life. And I think one thing that's hard, I'm not saying this is Kim's problem, but one thing that is hard as a business owner is when you're in that meeting and you're surrounded by however big your team is, 2 people, 3 people, or 30 people, it's hard to not be the one to speak first, right? Simon Sinek is famous for saying leaders eat last. And that saying says you should be the one to speak last, not first, because everybody else is just going to fall into line. And I just dealt with this in New York City with another successful client who's running EOS. They're having regularly scheduled meetings with an agenda, start time and an end time. They're doing all the right things. And he emailed me and said, I know I'm being reactionary. He admitted, I know there's a problem. We're down. Our numbers are down. I know I'm not a healthy owner. He's been following right along with everything we've been filming. I don't know what the problem is, though. So I said, record your meeting and send it to me. And I got an 1.5-hour meeting sent to me on Monday afternoon. And sure enough, one of the first things that I picked up on in that meeting was, even though he was doing all the right things, he was always the first one to speak first. And I think that really what that was a part of him being unhealthy. And look, you guys are the ones that are attached to the bottom line. You're the ones that are taking all the risk. It's rightfully so that you guys are emotional and you want to hurry up and let's solve it quickly. But he was speaking first and he was speaking often. And what that did, if you look at the IDS, the Identify, Discuss, and Solve outline that they have from their website, everybody in the whole entire room has to go around and share their opinion and their thoughts on the issue first before we can move forward. And I think that's something for him, at least in New York, even though he was doing everything else right, maybe that's a factor that if we could rewind the clock for Kim 5 weeks ago, if we weren't as reactionary as business owners, meaning we didn't jump right into, I think I know what the problem is and here's what we're going to change and here's what we're going to do. If we slow played it and we're actually the last ones to speak, would we hear from our provider? Would we hear that our marketing is bad or going to the wrong people, or we're seeing some trend of the patients that we maybe don't want to see?
Sure. Well, and it reminds me of this story, right? I don't know if you remember, we were going to do this brand new over-the-counter hearing aid marketing campaign. And I had an idea, but because I was proactive, I was running this piece ahead of time. My team had the chance at their monthly meeting to say, no, this doesn't fit our style. And what could be happening in a practice like Kim's maybe, or any place that's not sticking to the goals and the success, is that we tried something new, right? Maybe our marketing is off message. Maybe our team wasn't properly trained. Maybe we have new staff members, right? There could be a lot of different places for that to go off the tracks. And what I don't want to have happen in any business, mine included, is that we solve something that's maybe step 2 or step 3 of off the track. Where did it originally go off the track? Right. And if our marketing message went off the track, it might not matter what the provider's saying in the room, because what really threw us for a wrench after 18 months of success was a marketing piece. Right. Or maybe we're distracted by a new initiative and we're not getting back to the basics. Right. What really comes to my mind right now, of course, right, you have Russia and Ukraine going to war. You have economic inflation coming through the, uncertainties coming through to our patients. And now we have to be prepared, right? Now, we could have been prepared at the last election cycle. We could have been prepared in advance for coming inflation, right? We knew 3 years ago when the government started throwing out all this money that inflation would get here at some point. So if we were really on top of the game, we should have been prepared for economic uncertainties all the way back to 2008 during the last collapse of the economy. So what we have to do now, it's not going to be a quick fix. We're not going to turn around the bus, the ship, the Titanic overnight, right? This is going to be a slower process than a reactionary owner wants to face. But are we making the right steps today for the long-term success?
Yeah.
And that's what I really want to stress on. So immediately we need to know what's happening with these sales returns or cancellations. Why? And the best people, the best ways I know how to find out is either film of your appointments or your sales presentations, recordings of your phones team or appointment setters, and then a discussion where Morgan said, you speak last as the visionary owner, where your team gets to say what's going on. And I've heard things in my practice that range from, I'm burned out and stressed, I don't have enough time, we don't trust you, right? I've heard not indirect reasons that result in bad numbers or off the track. So I really can't stress enough. Do you reach out to your team, have this quick meeting and find out what they think the issue is, not just what we think the issue is. Very rarely in our businesses is the stated issue, whether it's in 90, whether it's the first thing that pops to our mind, very rarely is the stated issue the real issue. And so we need to dig a mile deep on whatever the gut reactionary items are, dig a mile deep and find out, is that really the reason? Or are we doing something? Did we change something? What's going on in our practice? So I think first and foremost, watch the film, listen to the recordings, and schedule a meeting with the people who are having the returns.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. The point of the written down problem is rarely the real problem. Is such a tricky one to figure out because I don't know if it's a fact-finding issue. I don't know if it's a business owner sometimes assume I know the right way and you don't, or maybe a lot of times what I've seen in a lot of meetings is they just feel like the meeting's going on for too long. And it's just like, let's just hurry up and get this meeting over with, but we haven't gotten a mile deep. And I think that was one section of the EOS of, even though you might have 16 issues that are on your issues list, if all you did was solve one issue today, but it was the single most important issue that you needed to solve today, that's a huge win.
Sure.
And I think that's tough again for business owners to understand is, but there's 16 other issues and there's all these other things we need to get to and the printer's out of ink and there's all that. It goes back to the subtraction method that you talked about a few weeks ago. And if your number one issue is constantly slid to the top of that issues list, you can't fail, because if every time you get together on that Monday morning meeting, you're solving it, truly solving it, meaning going a mile deep, like Jared said, you will have the traction that you want.
Well, it reminds me this week, just in our own group, right? I think we left 3 or 4 issues on our own list.
Yeah.
Right. So
us.
we just finished a great clarity break. We were together as a team for, 7 days. We came up with a lot of new ideas and brainstorms. And we had a list of issues, a list of ideas, issues, but they don't have to be negative. They can be positive. And we got to a point and Reese is like, well, aren't we going to do the next one? And I said, no, because I have enough to focus on right now for this next week, for sure, if not for the next month and quarter, that I'm not going to dive deep onto these next 3 issues. Let's just table those. It's okay to table those and move on into the future. And so you mentioned subtraction, right? Removing things from the plate.
Yep.
But I also think that focusing on the single most important, right? And so like, if we could get Kim offline, I would want to hop on and say, okay, how do we stop the bleeding, right? How do we get the team realigned because something's come off of alignment?
Yeah. And
then how do we refocus on the single most important thing to keep the business going, to keep the coffers full, and to focus on what we want to do? So that would be my focal point. And then what I want to do is say, give autonomy to your team to solve the little stuff, right? And you mentioned printer ink, you mentioned a handful of other issues that arise. And what's so frustrating, right? For the unhealthy owner like myself at times, is when those little issues are keeping us from big traction. And the best thing I can tell you to do is empower your teams, give them autonomy to solve the little things, so that when you're having your team meetings, your L10s, your quarterly planning sessions, you can focus on the ones that will make you a lot of money or grow your business the quickest. And we've had to do that in my practice. I handed out credit cards to the teams. I trust my team 100% to solve, 99% of what comes across their plate. And because we've empowered them to get rid of the little things that cause their headaches day to day, we're getting more traction than ever before, more success than ever before, and we can focus on the big levers in the business.
Why is it so hard for you guys to trust people? Like, walk me through the mindset. You start a business, you own the business, you start hiring people for the business, and it's always the ones that you guys hired, 10, 8, 12, 4 years ago, that was like your OG, your original person that you hired. And you'll trust them and you love them and you appreciate them and it's awesome. But then this newbie comes along and you hire somebody like in the last 6 months to 9 months, and it's like you guys don't trust them. And obviously I'm grouping you all together, but I think it's true. So why hire somebody and then not trust them?
Yeah, so that makes no sense when you pose the question like that. So, I mean, if you could pose that question to every one of us visionary owners, I think you would agree. Right. It doesn't make logical sense.
Yes, because what you're talking about is the stuff that you guys don't even want to do.
Sure.
I missed my clock in. I forgot to clock out when I went home. We don't have enough cups in the office. We don't have snacks in the office. The trash can's full. And truly, I think the fear is they won't do it as good as I will. They don't care as much as I do. For some of our clients, I'm worried they're going to steal from us. Honestly, we've heard that.
Well, we've been burned, right? If you're a business owner, you've been burned, you've been stole from. We heard about that at the mastermind this week, right? You've been disappointed, you've been left down. So all of those things play into the lack of trust. But I would say that lack of trust is actually making us more reactionary as business owners, right? So like I said, my DO resigned last Friday, or a week ago Friday. And so those emails, those issues, those fires, those problems have been coming through to my desk. And a lot of them are things where I just had to impart the 1-minute manager and give it back to the team to solve. Right? Simple things like, I trust you to do that. How can I help you with this? What else can I do to make sure that this isn't a problem for you? And once you start to trust the team, they feel empowered. And if you remember the 3 reasons that teams work, they're looking for mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And that autonomy one is the hardest one for us to give away. And the best thing I can do for Morgan is say, I remember you saying that nobody would ever watch your kids. Right. Yeah. So if I'm going to flip the script on you, why wouldn't you trust your kids to somebody else?
I don't know them. Don't trust them. Don't know if they got trained properly. Don't know anything about them. But I didn't hire them. They don't work for me.
Right. But do you see the same, like we're talking about that trust, and trust takes time.
Trust takes time. Trust takes time. Giving trust is what earns trust. And that's where for me, what I think I've seen you do really, really well with new employees, old employees, the small stuff, is be proactive. And what I mean by that is if you can go to an employee and say, here's what I want you to do, here's how I want you to do it, you give them the tools for success, and then you sit back and you watch that age-old question of, I think we talked about this 3 years ago, can't versus won't. So if you give an employee a low-level task, we need to buy cups for the office. This at some point in the office, this has happened to us. I need you to stock the office with cups. And they don't stock the office. Well, what's going to happen? You're going to lose trust. It's going to be the first branch that gets broken on that trust tree, right? And after a few branches break, you're going to be over that relationship and you're going to look to plant that tree somewhere else with somebody else. Now, the good part is you guys own the business. So when you're ready to be done with that relationship, you can be done with that relationship. I think what I would want everybody on an employee level of is to actually be proactive. And I love this. We just went through this with a young individual who's working with us here at Experts yesterday, who was proactive, came to us and said, what more can I do for you guys? And that happens rarely to never, I think, for the average employees that I've seen, either in your clinic, other people's clinics. I don't see that ever. And it was him coming to us and being proactive. And I think you guys can return that same favor back to your employees and be proactive with them, especially if you're somebody that wants to delegate or get things off your plate, is be proactive with that. Don't sit back and hold on to that fear of they might break my trust. It might not work out. They won't do it as good as I think I'm going to do it. Be proactive, set the rules to the game, set clear expectations, let them go and do it. And if they break that trust, you have your choices because you own the business.
Sure. I would say chat in right now if there's something that you can be proactive about in second quarter, right? So we're almost finishing quarter one. What can you do today to plant the seeds that will bloom in second quarter? Chat in what you plan to be proactive about in the second quarter. It reminds me, Morgan, of like the saying, the pain you know versus the pain you don't know.
Sure.
Right. So you and your wife being, overwhelmed or frustrated or burned out with the kids, at least you know what that's like. You have experience, right? But if you bring in a babysitter or a nanny or somebody to watch your kids, there could be a whole list of shit that goes wrong.
Yeah, totally.
Right. But the one is, well, shoot, we can have another sleepless night, or we can be stressed, or we can do this, and we know how to act.
Yeah.
And so as business owners, the pain that we know, right? Whether it's booking airplane tickets for a staff member, taking out the garbage, ordering printer ink, we know how to click the 3 or 4 buttons online or on Amazon to get that done quickly. Yeah. What we don't know is how long it's going to take to train the new person about our Sky Miles account, about our points, about which credit card to use, about how to do the invoicing, how to do the receipts. So the pain we know versus the pain we don't know is what's holding a lot of us owners back. And what I can tell you, the more that you can give autonomy to your team, the more that anything you're going to do more than once is automated, the more that you can trust, the more that you can delegate or elevate, the better you're going to be and the more proactive you're going to be rather than reactive.
Yeah. And I can't urge you enough to start small, right? Because if I use that real world example again of my own children, who I still to this day wouldn't trust with anybody, I would have to start small. It would have to be, let's eat lunch together and I'll see how you talk to my kids. Do I agree with this? Do I agree with that? And the same is true for you. So if you're going to delegate, don't delegate to them the AR of the business, something that they're going to screw up and you're going to walk away pissed off and everybody's going to lose. You delegate something small. And that's where I think if you're going to utilize the EOS model, that entrepreneur operating system, and you're really going to follow Jared's methods and the methods that he's adopted from other people, you start small with to-dos, you build those to-do into rocks, and then you watch your people knock those rocks out and accomplish their goals. And they have 90 days to do so, right? This isn't something that, hey, I want you to do this by tomorrow at 5 p.m. You do have to set them up for success. So I would say, thinking as an average employee, I've been an average employee before. I've been on that side of the table away from you guys, you as owners. Give us the time to do it. Give us clear expectations and make sure you outline it and make sure we have enough time to get it done.
So I want to say, so back to this, Kim, it's just running in my head now. So I go back to Kim and I say, what I want to know right now is, what do I do? Right. I'm off track. It's great. This discussion's fantastic, but I want to make sure Kim has an answer. And so I go to the unhealthy part of me goes to, I just want to spend more money on marketing and get more appointments and make up for it with energy and with dollars. Right? Like, I just want to double down. If I was at the blackjack table right now, I'd be like, let's double down. Let's spend more money.
Yeah.
The problem with that, and I want everybody on the call to learn from my past, right? So I set out and I shared this at the mastermind, that it's not that I have all the answers, but it's that over the last 12 years of building and scaling businesses and growing this network, I've found things that worked really well, and I've found things that didn't work really well. And in the past, I would spend a lot of money to recover, right? I would blow through it. I would push through the issue or the pain and just go beyond it. But that's going to be the most expensive way to do it. The healthier version would be to truly diagnose the problem before we spend more money, before we do another marketing campaign, before we do anything. We need to diagnose what is the real issue, right? And then solve that real issue. So if it is the economy, we need to role play how to answer financial questions. If it is a broken sales process, we need to recalibrate and realign before we just go spend more money and be reactionary. So I need a diagnosis. And so, connect with me offline. Let's solve the problem with a true diagnosis before we prescribe, or I'm going to feel like that show House MD, where we're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that there's a solution.
Yep. I want to talk, we had somebody chatting about what they want to be more proactive with, but before we get there, Jared, it's a question I've been holding on to. Why is it, at least in our niche that I've been in the longest, the audiology niche, why is it always marketing? When someone experiences tough times, when numbers are bad, when things happen, not just Kim, but everybody, it's always like, what is Jared running? What's Jared's marketing piece? Jared, I need a piece.
Sure.
This happens all the time. Why is it that we get gravitated? Why do we get pulled in that direction?
Well, I think it's the dollars, right? At the end of the day, we associate marketing with more cash, more dollars, right? So if I do better at marketing, I will have more money.
But is it faster? Is it like, so I can make the argument too of, yes, if we spend more money, we'll make more money. I get it. We'll double down on red. I could also go to my sales team and say, sell more.
Mm-hmm.
Less returns, higher close rates, and sell more.
Yes. And that's why I said, I really want to know the diagnosis, because I think I know this particular business, or even three of them that I had the conversation with this week, that marketing is successful. Marketing is getting people to raise their hand. Marketing is getting patients to interact, right? Most businesses do not have a marketing problem. Most businesses have a sales problem or a conversion problem. And so I would really, my questions on private coaching sessions are, tell me your numbers, right? Show me what's happening in your business. And I asked 3 different clients this week to help me understand the true problem.
Yeah.
Right? Because yes, I can cover it up with more money.
Yeah.
I covered up problems in my own business for years, right? I focused on top line growth for years, but top line growth doesn't pay the bills. Cash flow is great, but it's not profitability. Right. And so first, I want to know what your vision is, and I want to know what the actual problem is. And then I want to solve the actual problem with a long-term proactive approach versus a reactionary approach.
Yeah, I love it. And it sounds like Kim chatted in and said, we do have a great plan. I appreciate you guys' help. Sounds like they're going to fix some things on their next L10. So that's awesome to hear. Steve chatted in and said he's looking to schedule block, which is something that you've dealt with. Both in personal life, we use schedule blocks, work life, we use schedule blocks. Your calendar and my calendar is color coded front to back, A to C, Z to A.
Well, we shared that at the marketing. So we just had a marketing implementation day. And I think I kind of told you before, it's going to be a little bit less about marketing, more about setting yourself up, or being proactive, setting yourself up for success. So if Steve, and I recommend this to everybody, I recommend this for business owners, for doctors, I recommend this for vendors, I recommend this for anything. How do you build a system that if you were incapacitated, if you got hit by a bus, that somebody else could pick up the baton and finish the race for you, right? And so Morgan alluded to, we use Microsoft, but Google has it as well, calendaring systems with multiple colors. And we have calendars for each business. We have calendars for the marketing team. We have calendars for the coaching team. And anybody at any time can figure out where the other person is, what they're doing, and what the topic of that project is. And if you can, and I wish Reese was here, right? Because the kid went from, I'm not a runner, to running 100 miles in maybe 60 days.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Very, very quick.
But what was he proactive with, right? He was proactive with his diet. He was proactive with his sleep. He was proactive with his running.
Stretching, bought different shoes. He hired a coach. He started watching videos. I mean, he did a ton.
Yeah. And so once again, type in, I love that we had some feedback, but type in more. What are you going to be proactive with? And then how do we build this structure that allows you to know each day when the day starts, what you're going to accomplish that day? And I did this for the first now 3 months with a handful of clients, of making them email me what they're going to accomplish that day. And then by the end of the day, bring it to conclusion. And I know you use a journal of some sort. And in the past, I've had for coaching clients basically a day planner for every day in the year.
Yeah, and they love that planner. And I'm, like you said, you just did this at the marketing boot camp, and I am constantly blown away by the amount of people that have successful business, amazing businesses that make a ton of money for them, that utilize no scheduling whatsoever. And they wake up every day wondering, not even wondering, because I don't know if the process has gotten to that point of I wonder where I'll be today, but truly wondering, waking up and wondering where do I spend my time? Where should I focus? What does my energy go into? And it goes back to an old saying. I don't even know where I heard it. I always figured it was military, of stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I think block scheduling, especially for Steve and anybody on the phone call that's not using it or not using it to its fullest ability, that's so true. If you stay ready so that you don't have to get ready, meaning you don't wake up in the morning saying, well, I wonder where I'm going today. I wonder what I'm supposed to do. I wonder what my big issue is. How many times do you'll hear Reese or Keith or I in the corner of the room saying, hey, Siri, she's probably going to fire off on me now. Add this to my tomorrow, because that's our way of making sure that we actually get things done. And then it just pops right up on our calendar. And at 7:30 a.m., you told yourself, or you made a promise to a client that that's what you were going to go and do.
And even that is on some level reactionary.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're giving yourself a reminder. So props to you on that. But that reminder is still reactionary versus planned, strategized, and deployed.
Correct.
Right. So what EOS forced me to do, I always thought it was going to change the human behavior of my team. I thought for sure, right, that I was right, they were wrong, and that this new system was going to make them catch up with me. And what it forced me to do was all of the things our mastermind clients told us this week: to be intentional, to be consistent, to be disciplined, all of those big words, right, that we know we need to do. And I think what happens, Morgan, for the people we work with, doctors, lawyers, accountants, audiologists, real estate agents, is they as professionals have a calendar, whether it's their office management system or their showings calendar or their cycle or NOAA counselor, any professional calendar that they have. And so that they know they're going to work from 8 to 5. And everything else is in this system. But what we've taught now for a number of years, and what EOS tells us, is you need to have personal days, you need to have production days, and you need to have planning days. And so you can't rely just on your office management system calendar. You actually have to block out things like date night. You actually have to block out things like workout time.
It's so proactive.
You actually have to block out when you're going on vacation or a clarity break. You have to block out the things that you for sure want to accomplish. Otherwise, you wake up every day with an 8 to 5 job.
It makes me
and
think
I don't want an 8 to 5 job. I never want an 8 to 5
You're
job.
right.
And I run multiple businesses without doing an 8 to 5 job.
Yeah. And it's so true that is so proactive. Truly getting out. It makes me realize whether, you've probably been manipulating us to do this the whole time. But every year at Odd Experts, we get together sometime around October or November, and we say, what does next year look like? And that's where we have the neuroscience boot camp came to be. And there was a date and a time and a place. The treatment coordinator boot camp's been around for 4 years now, date and time and a place. Masterminds, date, a time and a place. Leadership boot camp, Jared's marketing, like boom, boom, boom. Now we have our entire year planned out, clarity breaks and everything else. And of course, we still add events too. We are still reactionary and, hey, there's an opportunity here to go make more or additional money that we weren't planning on at the beginning of the year. But at least that calendar year is set.
Sure.
I was going to go, if you truly are not using any schedule block at all, I was going to go even on a smaller level, which is still reactionary, is if they're not ready or they don't feel like they can truly plan out a whole year or they can't do 90-day rocks, I would tell them to add a 90-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute, whatever you can afford at the beginning of your day. So whatever time you wake up, let's say it's 7 a.m., and you might pray for an hour in the morning, you might work out for a morning, whatever your morning routine is, I would ask you to add 30 minutes to an hour for focus time.
Sure.
And on that time is when I would want you to focus on what you're going to accomplish today. And I think that's what you've been accomplishing with some of the clients that have really been lacking that time management or that productivity time. of at the beginning of your day, sitting down with a pad out, not your cell phone, not Facebook, not a computer, not something that can distract you, legal pad and a pen or something like this remarkable that's not connected to anything, and only lining out today what your most significant things that you need to get done.
Look, I mean, no, as an unhealthy owner, I would tell you that that's a bunch of bullshit and that you should just buckle down and do it. My wife taught me, right, good, better, best, right? And I want to hear, and I want Morgan to help you understand what he did when he first used my planner, what he's done with Grant Cardone's 10X planner, what he's doing with this Remarkable now. So I think there's a great learning nugget there. Chat in right now what you want to add to your calendar in second quarter and beyond. So check in one new thing you want to add proactively to your calendar second quarter and beyond. But I really do want to challenge you to this, because I think Morgan gave you progress, right? And we often say the words, don't let perfection, stop progress. And so I love that you're giving them one step forward, right? But if you truly want to make a difference in your day, in your job, in your career, and in your business, you have to do those hot button words of discipline and intentionality. And I would challenge you more than ever, because you already do it in your personal life. I promise you that you go to church on the same day at the same time every week. I promise you that you brush your teeth at the same time on the same day every week. I promise you, you go to bed nearly at the same time, you eat at nearly the same time. So let's not pretend like it's outside of our control. Yeah. What we're asking you to do is now back in the most important things that will help you think big, achieve big, and win big in the coming year. And don't take 12 years to figure this out like I did. Listen and implement, and you will see the results much quicker than I did. So I'm hoping, once again, that my story, that my journey can help you be quicker in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said. It's not like any of you guys that started the business with the intention of like, man, I really want to grind from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day and go home. And no, you did it so that you could live freely. You could make decisions when you wanted to. You could hire, fire, and change the business anytime you wanted, golf when you wanted, ride your bike when you wanted.
And yet every owner doesn't do those things now that they're an owner.
Any of the things that they set out that they wanted to do.
So we all said at one point or another, we're going to quit our job, we're going to quit school, we're going to quit doing what we want so that we have freedom. And then without being proactive, without protecting your time, without protecting your schedule, without learning to commit to very little or only the most important, you're now working harder, more stressed, and less productive than you could be. And it's just a hard lesson. You've seen me, right? You know when Jared's healthy and unhealthy based upon the hours he's emailing you and based upon what he's doing.
Yeah. And I just book a flight to Cabo. That's all I do. I just booked Jared a flight in a hotel in Cancun.
Yeah.
And he leaves and life is good. And truly, as hard as that is to hear, that is the truth, because we've lived it. I've seen multiple business owners leave their practice for 2 days, 3 days, sometimes a week at a time to go do whatever. Best week in their company's history, best month in their company's history. They get back and morale's higher than it's ever been. And it's like, you don't think that there's a connection there? And that's a tough pill to swallow. I don't get me wrong. That's hard. But what that means is that you're probably being extremely reactionary. You're probably micromanaging your people because you don't trust them. You have a ton of baggage and you don't have faith that they're finishing what they say they're going to finish. And so you become this helicopter parent, this helicopter business owner that won't let it go.
Sure.
And then when you're forcibly removed from the business, everybody's like, hey.
Yeah. Well, and I go to this story. Did anybody chat in? I want to know, what are you going to commit to in second quarter? I really do. If you're on this, even if you're watching it as a recording later on, chat in to the comment section, because I'm really curious, right? We're all on this journey of good, better, best. We're all at different stages of the journey. And what can we commit to? What can we improve, right? Continuous improvement is one of like my major core values. Yeah. And so if you're not committing to something, we can't help hold you accountable, and we can't help give you the coaching to get that result. What I was going to say is, when my DO quit, right? 10 days ago now, a couple of Fridays ago, yeah. I think that the old Jared would have started saying, here's the 5 core responsibilities, and I need each one of you to pick up the slack, right? And I didn't. I told the team, I joined the L10 that first Monday morning, and I said, to me, nothing changes. The only thing is that if you have a question, it's going to end up in my email box or my Microsoft Teams or my cell phone. And there's been about 3 to 7 things, right? And then we solved it with a process. We solved it with a quick answer in the now and moved on. And for me, we had record weeks now. We've had now a week and a half record. We're going to have our best quarter ever, our best weeks ever. And I don't think the team felt or feels the additional stress, because I didn't take the issue that happened to me, which was a resignation, and I didn't push it back onto the team. I owned the change. I owned what happened. And I said, okay, well, that means my life might be a little bit different for short term, but let's figure it out. And so if you have a person going out on maternity leave, if you have somebody that has COVID, if you have somebody sick, don't try and just get a great team member who already has core responsibilities to take on more. Let's either delete it from the most important things to do. Let's delay it till the next quarter, or you own it as the owner, but don't punish everybody else for a change.
I think that was huge. Don't punish everybody else is huge, because I've definitely seen that happen before. Number 2 is in the Colby world, that change management of their instincts, you going back to the team and saying nothing changes. And that's huge, because a lot of you have in the Colby world, they call it a follow through person, somebody that's very systematic, structured, detail oriented. They care about what is going to change. It's going to be their first question. What now? What do we do now? And they're going to be very reactionary. So for him as a business owner to go back to the team and say, look, nothing changes in my mind. You guys keep doing your job, do what you've been doing. We just had either a record week or a record month coming in, all three. And so nothing changes. Don't do anything different. I'll figure out as the leader of the team, as the business owner, what I need to do. You people just keep doing what you're amazing at.
Yeah. And so I know we're running short on time.
I want to talk about email still.
Yeah, that's the one. So
okay, cool. Yeah.
Like
Steve, you want more training, man? Put it on the freaking calendar at 7:30 a.m. and get it done.
Is that training like in the gym? He can join me in the fitness
I don't
trainer.
know. Either text me if you need a gym buddy, but if we're talking about, more training professionally and business wise, write it down and then get after that goal. Don't put it off anymore.
And the only thing I would, so for those that did chat in, right, I want to harken back yet again to SMART goals, right? So more training. I can't hold you accountable to more training, but I can hold you accountable to, I'm going to spend 15 minutes a day on excellenceinaudiologyuniversity.com, EIAuniversity.com to learn business training. I am going, 30 minutes a day for the next quarter, right? Why? Because it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's realistic, and it's timely, right? And I have to challenge my team all the time that if you set smarter goals, more specific goals, I can help hold you accountable and you will win. My job as a leader and a mentor and a coach is to make sure that you win. But I need you to commit and I need you to be smart with your goals. So I want you to rephrase that, Steve, and say, what is it specifically, measurably, achievably, realistic, and timely for that goal so that we can help you accomplish it? Emails. So I wanted to share, and it's a personal failure, probably since March of 2019, right? Okay. The world changed. And I jumped back in. I was at a perfect healthy point, or pretty darn healthy point, of only checking my email 3 times a day and having inbox 0. The world changed. And what did I do? I did what everybody else did. And I jumped into a digital world and I started responding to emails immediately. I started letting people email me all the time. And now 3 years later, 2.5 years later, I'm overwhelmed with emails, right? I'm being forced into a reactionary world that I know each and every one of you owners is in. So I want to teach the principle, Morgan, of checking your email 3 times a day or limited number of times a day, and this inbox 0. So I know you teach a lot of our new hires this principle. Do you have any Anything to
Yeah,
share?
and it's, I mean, when I'm teaching a new hire this, I hate to say it's different. It's easier, it's different. I don't know what the proper language is there, but most employees don't have email on their cell phone. So that's not a worry for me. Most employees have a job that they're actually trying to do. So there's a certain level of, they legitimately do not have time to check email all the time.
Or it's secondary to
Yeah,
them.
correct. That, and then both of those things are different for a business owner.
Sure.
So I might teach them slightly different, but nonetheless, it's still true. So even a new employee in our office, what we try to teach them, what we try to hold them accountable for, right? They're going to do what they're going to do. And as long as it's not getting in the way of productivity, they're going to do what they're going to do. To check that email 3 times a day. And that's massively different than what most people, I think what society teaches us, especially with instant messengers and direct mails and the dings on the phone and everything, is reactionary. I heard a ding and I got to get to it right away.
Well, the endorphin, I mean, I don't know if you've looked into the science
Behind it.
right? But the emotions, the endorphins, the physiological response of likes and follows and immediacy, you're addicted to it. The addiction is just as powerful there as it is with other chemicals.
So we try to teach them 3 times a day. What that means is morning time, when you come back from your lunch break, and before you go home. And the final step of that is before you go home, 4:30, 4 o'clock, whatever time you're going home, you need to have your inbox to 0. Now, inbox 0, the literal, because you have literal speakers and figurative speakers that work for you. The literal format of your inbox being 0 doesn't mean that you've deleted everything in your inbox. What it means is that you're up to date and you're up to speed. It goes back to that, get ready. So you stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Is if you check that inbox before you go home, there shouldn't be any surprises when you arrive in the next morning. And you're going to check the inbox in the morning. It's okay. You can take a deep breath, but we want them to really check that email 3 times a day. And then we want them to go home with inbox 0. And what I really want out of inbox 0 is for them to not have any surprises. All I want is for you to flag and read the important emails. Keep them. I want you to delete the ones that are not important and unsubscribe for any BS that you've somehow ended on a list somewhere else so that it's not there tomorrow and the day after and the day after.
Sure. Well, so I'm going to tell you a secret of what my proactive goal for second quarter is, and it has to do with my team in just a minute. But I love that inbox 0 because you're allowing your team to end their day on a clean break and go home and be with family. And then you're allowing them to be with family and friends and then show up to work and then go on stage like Disney talks about. So I like those 2 points of kind of a reset. It's a reset moment for them to not go home with 30 things in their email and be stressed all night or wanting to work from home and then showing up anxious the next morning.
Yep. And that's, like I said, don't forget what you wanted to say about your staff. But now that's for an employee. For you as business owners, your cell phone's attached to your hip all the time. You have Facebook, Instagram, email, everything you could possibly imagine on your cell phone. Probably you have a laptop that's with you all the time. You probably have a desktop at home, and your life never stops and work never stops. So just like Jared just said, realize when your employees go home, they're home. So if that makes you mad, you got to hire a counselor or something, because they don't own the company, right? That's not their job to work after hours. So delete, if that's a worry for you of inbox 0, check my email before I go home and then don't worry about it. If that's a problem for you, you really might want to take a look at what is happening after hours that you're genuinely worried about. For you as a business owner, the same is true though. 3 times a day, and inbox 0. The problem is, the difference is your inbox 0 might not be until 9 p.m. And that's totally fine too. You might check your email at 11 p.m. or midnight when he's up grinding on Infusionsoft, and that's fine too. Still no surprises for the next day. And then you can check it in the morning. And in the morning doesn't mean at 7 a.m. when you open your eyes. You should not be looking at your cell phone as the first act of your day, because you're going to fill your brain with the wrong information. You should be checking that email when you physically get to your office, or if you as a business owner, when you're done with your morning routine, meaning you've prayed, if that's a part of your morning routine, you've worked out, you've ate breakfast, you've hugged your family, kissed them goodbye, and now you're on stage. It's time for you to check that email.
Well, I think so. The big nugget there, and I'm going to be honest, mine's never going to be 3 times a day. It might be 6, right? So I have to go on that good, better, best journey. I do still work some crazy hours, but I do like the idea of just because you're a visionary entrepreneur or an owner of a business doesn't mean you have to work 24/7, right? And I remember coaching a client to start going on dates again, with his wife. I remember coaching a client to go back to guitar lessons. I remember
Take their
coaching
email off their phone.
take their email. So I was just going to say,
remember
Dr.
that.
Darrow, when I met him, I convinced him, we both did it. Of course, I relapsed, but we both did it and took email off phone, right? And so then you're forced to be intentional with your time and proactive with your time and strategic with your time rather than being controlled by that device in your pocket. So I can't stress it enough. Come up with a frequency. I mean, even if you told me that it was, 6 times a day, I would much rather
That's
that than
fine.
24/7.
Yeah, that's fine.
And put it, I mean, schedule 30 minutes on your calendar to go through your email, because if I block 30 minutes, I can get so much done with my email.
Yeah.
I can flag things, delete things, delegate things, forward things, respond to things in 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
Or I can be constantly distracted. And what the data shows is that it takes 15 minutes to recover from that interruption or that reactionary moment.
Yeah.
Right. So I did want to hear, with your calendar, do you still journal? Do you still write down a goal for the day or a top 3 goals for the day? And do you stick to that?
I do. I mean, as best as I can, right? Everybody's human. And even like Jared said, the three checks a day on your inbox, you're not going to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. I do have a very specific routine that I go through in the mornings, and I feel it when I don't do that routine.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wake up in the morning, typically I have my son awake with me. We get to spend time together. We get to drink coffee. He doesn't drink coffee. My 4-year-old doesn't drink coffee. I drink coffee. He hangs out. We go and work out in the garage for a minute, light stuff. We come back in, we watch cartoons, wake sister up. Great morning routine that I absolutely love. When that's off because I can't get my workout in, or I don't get to see him, or he's got to rush off to school, or this, that, or the other, I feel it. And I know that's definitely the same is true for Reese, because he's probably the most regimented I've ever met. He has a morning routine like the Terminator, and he can definitely feel it. And the thing that I feel the most is I feel a lack of productivity. When I haven't written my goals down, even if I don't get to all my goals, if I only do 1 out of my 3, I feel a massive lack of productivity. I feel a total failure of the day. If I don't start my day off on the right beat, I can feel it for the rest of the day.
Yeah. So another big nugget: personal days, productivity days, and planning days. If you can find a way in your calendar to throw some of those into the mix and truly hold yourself to them, you can accomplish way more than you would ever imagine possible. What I did want to commit to, I know we're out of time, what I want to commit to right here in front of everybody is during second quarter, I'm going to be at checking my email 6 times a day. Not 3. It's not going to be 3, but 6 times a day. I'm going to check my email and block time to respond so that it's not 24/7, 365 access.
I think that's what I just wrote that down. So now you're fully, that's our blood oath right there.
Just remember when they start emailing you and not me, because I didn't respond quick enough.
Yeah, I've only got 6. What I really like about that though, seriously, is the thing that you just said that I think is so hard for people is I'm going to check my email 6 times a day, but you also said I'm going to block time off to finish things. Because if somebody emails you and says, Jared, we don't have enough cups in our office, that's going to be a pretty quick solve. You have a company credit card, please use Amazon, right? Done. But if somebody emails you and says, Jared, I don't think we're running the right marketing, that might take more time for you to dive into what marketing you are or not running, or add it to the L10, or think about what your response is going to be. And so as a business owner, I think you guys have to make split decisions on, can I solve this today? Is it important enough that I solve it and do it right now? Do I have enough time, or should I save this for my blocked off calendar?
So you just hit the nail on the head. So for those that do use the Entrepreneur Operating System, what Morgan just said is checking the email off doesn't mean you have to solve it in the moment, right? So the potential outcomes when an email comes across my desk could be solve it immediately, right? It could be created to do, right? And I can immediately create a to do, which means I'll get to it. I'm putting it in my task list, in my goal list. It could be saying this is going to take more than 1 week, so I'm turning it into a project or a 90-day rock, right? So solve it immediately, turn it into a 1 week to do, turn it into a 90-day project or rock, or create an issue, right? And so the example you used about our marketing, to me, I can't solve it in the moment.
Yeah.
I can't even solve it in a week because I need to have a meeting with this person or with the whole team to decide what the hell are they talking about. It's been working for 6 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a meeting. The to do for me is to create a meeting to get everybody together to do a fact-finding mission to then determine if I need to create a 90-day project.
Right.
Right. And so
What's
that
the real issue there?
Yeah.
One email, but it might lead to multiple.
Yeah. Or I could pick up the phone, interrupt their day seeing patients, and chaos.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome.
And the only thing I would add there too is if the first point was do it, finish it.
Yeah.
That also might mean forwarding the email.
Yeah.
It might mean deleting the email, right? That's what I
That's
love
a hard
about
one.
do, delegate, and delete. That very well could solve the issue. If you get some nonsense, and what you have to do is delete it or delegate it to somebody else.
And most of the time for me, the deletion one comes from advertising reps and unsolicited emails, right? How many emails did I delete after that clarity break week? 327 emails came across my desk, and I just had to boom, 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 boom.
And
boom.
think about that's 327 opportunities to delay your day by 15 minutes. On average, when someone gets distracted on social media or an email as a distraction source, it's going to take 12 to 15 minutes for them to get back onto the task they were originally trying to do.
And just as a story, we're doing a lot of work with a Fortune 500 company right now. And so as we work with not a small business owner, but a Fortune 500 company, how painful is that process of scheduling meetings, showing up for meetings, a follow-up email? Like, it takes so much longer. But the outcome is just as good. It's just very much more structured.
It'll be better. Yeah.
The time is protected. The meetings are protected. The outcomes are almost guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to promise, and this just, I don't know how I found it. Well, I do know how I found it, right? My director of operations quit 10 days ago, but I was in our HR payroll app. We have an app that you can access on the phone to see time cards, payroll, sick time, all of it. Somehow I ended up in there approving time cards today because that was one of the things I need to now delegate to Rosie. But I found out that my front office patient experience coordinator is consistently clocking out at 5:25 and 5:31 each day. Right. So I haven't even told her. So hopefully she's not watching this right now. But for me to be, I could be reactionary and I could wait for her to quit. I could wait for her to be burned out. I could wait for her to get frustrated. Or I can say, I want her to have a work-life balance. And it's my job because the problem, the smoke, the fire came to me. It's my job to be proactive and to help solve this because it's not fair to the everyday team member to be there every day till 5:30 when her work hours are 5 p.m. Right. So the brainstorm, the idea is have the last appointment end at 4:30 instead of the last appointment end at 5 so that she can be clocked out and home or out of work at 5 and back onto personal time.
Yeah.
So I think the old Jared would have waited until she raised it as an issue or until my administrator said we're paying too much overtime or all of the issues. But I know I can adjust my schedules. It's not going to cost me any revenue. I'm not going to lose any sales opportunities. And now she's going to end up with 2.5 extra hours of personal time with her family and kids.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, whoever's on the phone call, or even if this is a recording, I'm so curious if you're a business owner, chat in, fire her. If your thought process was this person is robbing Jared, they're staying late, they're lying, they're doing, I think so many business owners would have looked at that problem right there and been very reactionary and said, you're screwing me out of 30 minutes of pay every single week. On average, you're X amount of $100 over your paycheck. This can't stand. You have too much overtime. And it would have been a completely different conversation. That is the difference between being reactionary, especially a negative business owner being reactionary versus being proactive and saying, I'm willing to change my business model, change around the way that I do my office visits so that you can go home and be with your family.
And I'm not changing my office hours. We're still going to lock the doors at 5 o'clock, but I'm going to put in a buffer time so people can wrap up their day, do their notes, close out the day, do their end of day checklist, and still be out at 5 o'clock. It's not going to cost me a dime, and I'll bet you it changes her life. So, things for you to do. I think we've shared a lot of good nuggets. I don't know if you want to recap them, Morgan. Biggest things for me: be proactive. Don't be reactionary, right? Make sure you're planning personal days, productivity days, and planning days. Make sure that you're committing to accomplishing certain things, time blocking yourself, and protecting your greatness, your visionary entrepreneur lifestyle, so that you can accomplish and think and do and make bigger decisions with a bigger impact, with a bigger financial gain, than letting your business drive you crazy or overwhelm you. So remember, you started what you're doing. You built your legacy on a desire for freedom, for legacy, and now is your chance to own that. And it is your chance to be disciplined and consistent and intentional so that you can have a bigger impact on this world. I hope you can learn from my stories and my journey. Thank you for being with us. We'll look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Have a great week.